I want to go over Billboard's top 50 greatest rap groups of all time. I'm not going to go over all of them, 50 to number 1, but I am going to go over the top 20. First, I'm going to start with number 21. I know that sounds crazy because I just said top 20, but number 21 on this list is Bone Thugs and Harmony, and I disagree with them being number 21. I'm going to start off like that. They've had immense impact on the music industry, and you could argue they're one of the first to rap and sing. The fast flows that Migos they got from them. The fast hibbity hobbity, whatever, that type of flow, they got from them. So their influence is huge. Now, if you go to Billboard's actual list, actual description of their list, they rank it like this: body of work / achievements, cultural impact / influence, longevity, lyrics, and flow. So, I think with all that in, I think Bone Thugs and Harmony should be a lot higher. I do think they belong in the top 15, not even the top 20. I do think they belong in the top 15. But they put them in number 21. I disagree wholeheartedly with that. They said, when Eazy-E put them on, they had the number 1 hit, The Crossroads. They had a couple of albums that came out, but they said, that's why they got a Grammy, which I didn't even know about. That's surprising. Number 20 is UGK. I have no problem with this. I think UGK was a very, very talented group. Did they really make, in Houston, they made some of the biggest fucking impacts, period, in the South. But, and they've influenced a lot of people. So, yeah, I have no problem with them being number 20. Number 19 is G-Unit. Now, this is where, a lot of you expect me to get mad. Initially, I was upset at them being a number 19. I did feel like they should be a lot higher. But when I really, really thought about it, I sat there and I was like, okay, G-Unit number 19. Think about this. G-Unit had a really, really short run. Incredibly short run. All because of beef, in between. Game leaving, Buck leaving, everything crumbled. And the thing that a lot of people forget is that G-Unit never had a full, complete album together. Yeah, that's a lot of people throw that out the window and don't realize that. I don't think even, G-Unit members themselves don't realize that. Because Beg for Mercy, when it dropped, Yayo was locked up. So Yayo wasn't officially on the album. They had him on the I Smell Pussy record, which was a bonus cut on the album. I don't think he even made the actual final album. And I don't remember if they have any other record on the actual album. And I Smell Pussy was a record that was, a mixtape track that came out a long time ago when before Yayo got locked up. So Yayo officially wasn't on the album. It was Banks, 50, and Buck. And you didn't have Game because Game wasn't officially in G-Unit in late 2003. He started coming around in G-Unit in 2004, actually being in the group. He was around, but he wasn't in the group. The idea to put him in the group didn't happen until really 2004. So if you look at G-Unit as the mainstream group that was supposed to be out, you had 50, Game, Buck, Banks, and Yayo. They never released an album together. So when I thought about that, I was like, okay, they never really reached their actual potential ever. And then by the time the second album came out, Terminated on Sight, Game was already out the picture. Buck was slowly falling out the picture. And I remember at the time 50 saying, Buck's still signed to G-Unit. He's just no longer in the group. He's featured on 5 tracks. And then that's why when you look at Terminated on Sight, the album, you see featuring Buck. You don't see just G-Unit. It says featuring Young Buck, because he was no longer part of the actual group itself. So then you have that situation with that album never being its peak. Because Terminated on Sight should have been the full G-Unit album, where we had Banks, Game, 50, Buck, and Yayo all in one album. That would have been their peak. That would have been their potential, in my opinion. So when I thought about that, because initially I was mad. I was like 19. Nah, man, they're worldwide. They've had a huge impact. huge slew of mixtapes. But like mainstream album wise, clothing was huge, which a lot of groups can't say that. The Reebok deal that garnered $80 million, some crazy number. Everybody was yelling at G-Unit. I remember hearing that shit like it was fucking, like it was a disease. Like everybody had to fucking say it. So, the more I thought about it, the more I agreed with G-Unit being at number 19. I'm not really upset or mad about that. I could agree with that. 3 6 Mafia at number 18. I agree with that. They actually won fucking Oscar. So with the hustle and flow, it's hard out here for a pimp. So I have no problem with that. I think 18 is great. Cypress Hill 17. Yeah, I could see that. But that's a little bit before my time. Beastie Boys as well, number 16. Yeah, I could see that as well. Naughty by Nature, 15. Yep. Fugees. This is where I felt like they should have been a little bit higher because the Fugees had records that still to this day are being sampled and used. Ready or Not, Here I Come. Killing Me Softly. All these records. These are, classics that get sampled every single couple of years. So I think Fugees probably should have been a little bit higher. Mobb Deep at number 13. I agree with that. I got no issue with that. Mobb Deep has had a hell of a run until, Prodigy passed away in 2017. At that point, it was over. But Mobb Deep was, I don't know. I could see Mobb Deep in number, top 10 for me because Mobb Deep, at least for me, was involved a lot in my life. I listened to a lot of their music. And the way I got introduced to Mobb Deep, well, actually, I heard about Mobb Deep first because you guys got to remember, I was born in 1995. So, for those that are first-time listeners or don't know, I was a fucking baby when they first came out, or I wasn't even born. I don't remember the first Shook ones came out in probably the early 90s. So, anyways, I heard about them first on the Gotta Twist record. Gotta Twist, huh? I remember seeing that on BT, Rap City, on the Countdown. I love that track. That's how I got into them. And then once I heard they signed a G-Unit, obviously got into them even more. And then from there, I was a huge fan. So, to me, Mobb Deep should be in the top 10. Number 13 is not bad. That's not disrespectful at all. Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 at number 12. I don't know too much about, the Furious 5. They have great records here and there, but I'm not too well informed of this. I'm not even going to lie with y'all, man. I'm not even going to pretend like I know some of this shit, all this shit. I know hip-hop, don't get me wrong, but when you're going to the 80s, it's a little wishy-washy for me, which I am gonna brushing up on. I do feel like I'm gonna do documentaries catered more towards the 80s. I have some ideas that I want to do, so that way, my hip hop historian kind of thing can get expanded into more because I haven't really touched much on the 80s. I don't think I've ever touched on. I've touched on the 90s, of course, but on the 80s, I don't think I've touched on anything in the 80s besides Uncle Luke. I said how Uncle Luke changed the music industry. So that was, okay, that's something in the 80s I touched on. Okay, yeah, I think there's a few other things maybe, but yeah, Grandmaster Flash. Now, this is where a lot of people had an issue, where I saw a lot of backlash. Migos being at number 11. You guys got to hear, I think this is why people have an issue with Migos being at number 11. Because it's the newer generation. And that's why you guys are looking at it as a new generation. You guys are looking at, they're not that lyrical, they're mumble rap, blah, blah, blah. And you guys are like, why are they there? Think about it. They basically reintroduced the flow that everybody else started using. You have Bone Thugs and Harmony using it. 3 6 Mafia at some point using it. So they came, brought that flow, nicknamed the Migos flow, took it on their own thing, and then got number one hits, man. Bad and Bougie, number one in 2017, huge, consistent with mixtapes, dropping hits back to back. Obviously, Takeoff's death has put an end to it, so that's their run pretty much because you can't bring back someone from death. But I think they earned that spot, man. They've been consistent. Ever since 2013. So what? Takeoff died in late 2022. Damn near a 10-year run. and being consistent back to back with albums and stuff, I don't see a problem with them being at number 11. You know, they could have swapped, you know, like I would have put Mobb Deep above Migos, Fugees above Migos. But other than that, you know, at worst, I would have put them at like number 14, 15. But 11, I have no issue with that, you know. Let's go on the top 10. The Roots, number 10. Obviously, we know legendary, lots of samples. Black Thought is obviously one of the most respected lyrical artists of all time. I think he's one of the greatest lyricists of all time. Questlove. Yeah, I think Black Thought, you know, with his reinvention, Questlove doing his thing. Okay, you got De La Soul at number 9. Yeah, dope. I ain't got nothing much to say there. I think they have history. They have legendary tracks, legendary albums. Number 8, Salt and Peppa. Yeah, they've had their own. I think this is another one of those like how they included Nicki Minaj in the top 10. It's another one of those female empowerment. You have to put female type of, you know, Salt and Peppa is great. They've had their impact, but to be number 8, I don't know about that, man. That's fucking pushing at that point. But, you know, nowadays everything has to be politically correct. We have to involve everyone, or else it's looking as misogynistic, whatever the case may be. So I think that's what this is. It's just same with Nicki. It was the same type of thing where, you know, I personally don't think Nicki should have been in the top 10, and I don't think Salt and Peppa should be in the top 10. It's got nothing to do with them being females. I just don't think, you know, they didn't really make that much of an impact to be in that number 8. Like, I can name all those other groups before did way more. Fugees could be, you know, should be there. Eric B and Rakim, you know, obviously Rakim is named a lot of people's favorite rappers. Eric B doing his damn thing, you already know. Lots of legendary albums with the Paid in Full, movies damn near made, shit like that. So, Public Enemy number 6, you know, yeah, nothing, you know. 9/11 is a joke. That was obviously one of the biggest Grammy Lifetime Achievement Awards. You know, got no argument there. Now the top 5. This, you know, I had no issues with this list besides one placement. So number 5, Run DMC. I agree. Legendary, and a lot of these people influence a lot of different artists, and they're still influential to this day. And they reinvented themselves, and then doing the major deal with Adidas, that, you know, that took hip hop to a whole different level branding wise. So shout out to them. They killed that. So I agree with number 5. Number 4, Tribe Called Quest. I agree with that as well. Legendary, you know, they've done their thing, and a lot of them still relevant to this day. So I have no issue with that. Now the top 3. This is where I have an issue. You got NWA at number 3. You got Wu-Tang Clan at number 2. And then you got Outkast at number 1. Now, I have an issue with Outkast being number 1. I think Outkast should not be number 1. And the reason why is because Outkast, out of these groups, you could argue, had the most hit records. You know, because they went diamond on one of the albums, which is a speaker. It was a double LP, so the 5 million sales counted as double. So diamond, speaker, Love Box, The Love Below. But, you know, I don't think number 1 is wild to me. I think you could argue Wu-Tang or NWA should be number 1. Wu-Tang, just off the logo itself, like, everybody in the fucking world recognizes that logo and knows what it is, man. Even if you don't even recognize the music like that, like, just that alone, like, Outkast does not have anything legendary like that. Like, Outkast was huge in America. You could argue in some other parts worldwide, but they didn't make global impact. And that's the thing, is I think global, like, a lot of these, they don't look into global impact. So I would personally, this is how I would do it, is I would put NWA at number 1. The reason why is because it's so, like, everybody in NWA is legendary and have gone on to do legendary things, and some of them would have gone on to do legendary things, like Eazy passing away. although the group, didn't have its peak like that, like G Unit didn't have its moment that long, with Ice Cube leaving, Dre eventually, Eazy-E having his issues, so on and so forth. But I would put NWA number one just because, man, the impact when they came out, it was just like, and from there, everybody knows NWA. You got a movie made about NWA straight out of Compton. You have a fucking movie made out of this. A huge Hollywood blockbuster movie. Outkast does not have that, and Wu-Tang does not have that. Wu-Tang, I believe, had a series that was made about them. But Wu-Tang, you could argue NWA or Wu-Tang. I do think Outkast should be number 3, and then it's either NWA or Wu-Tang. I would put NWA. But Wu-Tang, you can have an argument that they're number 1. But I disagree with Outkast being number 1. I think they should be number 3. They've had a hell of a run. But, outside of their actual group, Big Boy did his thing, but Andre never dropped a solo album. I always hold that against him because it's like, if you're going to, because Billboard had the top 50 artists and they put Andre really high up, and I'm like, you're doing that because it's the fucking group projects. And now on here, you're putting them number 1 because it's the group project. So which, you can't give them credit for both. You can't do that. It's unfair. If you're going to do the solo rapper stuff, keep him off the list because he doesn't have a solo album. So since we're mixing the two, I got to knock some points out for Outkast because as a group, they did their thing, but as solo artists, nah, man. So a lot of people like Wu-Tang and their group, NWA and their group, G-Unit, you could argue, in their group outside have done fucking insane things. A lot of these artists outside of the group have done insane things. So that has to be in the equation. So I disagree with Outkast being number 1. That was my number 1 issue with this list. Initially it was G-Unit being that low, and then I was looking at some of these other placements. I was like, why is Migos high? But then I thought about it. The more you sit back and think about it, the more you're not just reacting to it. You're actually sitting there, okay, let me see, boom, boom, boom. But yeah, I wholeheartedly disagree with Outkast being number 1. Going through like the number 30s and 40s, I didn't really have a lot of issue with a lot of these. Some of these, could have been a little bit higher. Some of them could have been a little bit lower. Let's see. Ying Yang Twins was legendary, by the way. Then you got like the City Girls. Like, no disrespect, they're too damn new to be on this fucking list. The 50 greatest of all time. Like, man, you got to earn some type of stripes, man. Shit. But yeah, the Diplomats, Dipset was at number 24. Sugar Hill Gang, the Locks at number 22. So yeah, I mean, overall, my main issue, like a lot of these placements, they could have swapped out a couple spots here and there. I feel like a lot of it was accurate. I had really not too much issue with it. Since, they're including, since we're including outside members of the, not outside members, but like solo acts of the group, you can put G-Unit way high up there if that's what we're including. G-Unit should be higher than at that point. A lot of these lists should be switched around because a lot of these solo acts outside of the group did fucking amazing. You got Wu-Tang, you got Method Man turning into a damn actor, bro, and still spitting bars. He's on fucking Power while rapping his ass off on Lloyd Banks' track. So, Wu-Tang could argue as number 1. Outkast, no disrespect, man, but, what is after the group? What have they gone on to do? Andre, yeah, he'll drop some fire verses here and there. Other than that, he's like going to random countries and just playing the flute. Big Boy's been doing his thing, but, we can't put too much praise into Outkast like that. Anyways, I'm talking my ass off here. You guys, that's my main kind of gripe with this is that Outkast should not be number 1. Most of these numbers I agree with. Salt and Pepper number 8, yeah, I think it's way too high. I think Fugees should be higher. I think Mobb Deep should be higher. Fugees being at number 14 and Mobb Deep number 13. I disagree with that. Overall, though, I think they got this one better than they did the top 50. I think the top 50 rappers list was horrible. I think a lot of it was misplaced. But this, you can shuffle a few numbers here and there, and you'll be good.